I see a few of you have joined. We're just going to wait for another minute or two to let people join before we get started. Feel free to chat in the chat if you want. Don't have to chat, but if you wanted, you could. Yes, it is snowing at the moment, Janice. It's flurries. It's not sticking. But uh, we weren't supposed to get snow. It was supposed to be west of us in the on the other side of the divide on the Alleghenies. Um, but we got snowing. I think it's going to melt, but later this afternoon. How about you? I don't, I can't remember where you are, Janice, but um, let us know, anyone who's got snow. It's certainly cold enough, but we haven't had that many really cold mornings, so I think the grass, and the streets will be too warm for anything to stick. Ah, Richmond. Ah, Ohio. Wow. Yeah, agree. I don't have to dig out my snowblower yet. It's coming, I'm sure, but yeah, you don't get snow in Savannah too often. All right, let's get started. Um, So hello, everyone. I'm Kim Umbauer, one of the product managers at TLC. With me is Rhiannon Williams. She's a product owner at TLC. Both of us focus on cataloging workflows along with title and item metadata. That's our experience and our expertise. So in today's session, we're going to talk about OCLC workflows in library.solution. In other words, what library.solution can do to help you with your reporting of your holdings to OCLC. And there's a number of different ways to report title adds and title deletes. And I'm going to go discuss that and demonstrate that for everyone. Uh, I have some experience. A library I worked for before I joined TLC, which was about 10 years ago, I worked in a library system in a countywide consortia, essentially, down in southern Alabama. And at the time, we used library.solution for our ILS, but the state library in Alabama gave everyone a membership to OCLC so that we could use their ILL platform. I don't know if OCLC still offers that interlibrary loan platform. If I remember right, it was called First Search. At any rate, that's why we were given a free membership, which was wonderful since it can be a little pricey for small libraries. So I've used most of the workflows that I'm going to describe below. I have used, and which was so it gives me a little knowledge to be able to share this information with you. Library.solution does have a number of features that make it a little simpler. It helps you with that task, and that's what I wanted to focus on. And feel free, anyone who is a member of OCLC that has other information or additional information to share as I go through the various workflows, feel free to put that in chat so we can all learn from each other. So basically, when you're a member of OCLC, the library has a responsibility to report any titles that are added or deleted from their database to OCLC so that they can keep OCLC's online catalog, WorldCat, up to date. And so that's the job of being able to report holdings to OCLC on a regular basis. And I'm just going to show you WorldCat real briefly. Just look for a book here. That all they show, they don't keep, there's no real item data that's associated with your account in terms of WorldCat. Um, uh, they just display in the title, in their OPAC, which is what we're looking at here. They just simply display who owns it. There's, of course, 3,000 libraries, but they have this title, but they just show the ones that are closest to me. I happen to be in Northwest Virginia, near the West Virginia border, so that's why we're getting areas not too far from me if I wanted to drive there to go to that library. So it's mainly all you're sharing. Basically, what OCLC wants is to know, associate your account ID, your OCLC account ID, with that title to show that you have a copy of that title. That's what the holding is that we're reporting. And that way there is information here. So if I wanted to go to Frostburg State University, I could get directions to go there. So the name of the library is there with some contact information that you decide what you want to share in WorldCat. So they're not keeping all track of all of your items or anything like that. That's not what we have to report, but we do have to report any new titles that we've added or any titles we've deleted. There's also something that OCLC calls a reclamation project, and I will mention that at the end in case you are dealing with that, because Library.Solution has an option to help you update your records after that reclamation project. Okay, so how do we report title ads? I'll start there. First off, and I can't show you, unfortunately, because I don't have access to two of the OCLC's cataloging applications. They have a client application called Connection with an X, and they also have another one that's come out in the last few years called WorldShare Record Manager. So many of our customers who are OCLC members often work in the cataloging, either of these two cataloging applications, to download records, find good records, download them into an export file that they import into LS2 cataloging. So that's the workflow. You work in Connection or WorldShare Record Manager, and you find a record, you edit it if you need to. You might do some local holdings information if you wish, but you save that record to an export file. And the act of saving that record notifies OCLC that you own a copy of that title. So you've updated holdings automatically as part of working in their cataloging application. And then you download that file and import it into LS2 cataloging. And I can just give you a quick view of LS2 cataloging. It's import. And show you some examples. So it's fairly straightforward. You need to get that into your ILS, so that you can circulate, right? You want to add items. You want to be able to get that item on the shelf and have it available to all of your Library.Solution applications, LS2 Pack, LS2 Staff. So you want to import that file that you've downloaded from your Connection or WorldShare Record Manager. Come into Import, choose a file. Got some examples here that I retrieved. And I'm going to change my step 2. What you do here is entirely your choice with the step 2 configuration settings. I want to make it draft for now. I'm using a sales team demonstration database, so I don't want to add too many titles to their database using our OCLC account. Draft. Here you have a couple options. If you know that you have on order records, and some of the titles that are in this MARC file that you've exported out of Connection or WorldShare Record Manager, you might want to choose Replace Existing Content. Then it will find that matching on order record and replace the bibliographic content. However, there could be some records in that file that are new titles, never added. You may not know that. And those will be reported as errors if you choose Replace Existing Content. But you can also download that file that's generated, and I'll show you that in a moment when I get to import history, and re-import that file of the ones that were new. And then in that case, you'll choose Keep Existing Content. So you have a couple choices there. If you're not too sure, use Keep Existing Content, because you can always bring in those better records and use Compare to move items from your on-order record to your good record, your OCLC record later. Let me pick my title space to put them in. I forgot to click on that space to bring it in. Everything else is the same. And of course, you just get the regular location selection, review. Let me go ahead and start that import. Might take a few moments. Let me show history while we're waiting. Oh, ignore this one. I was playing around with setting up my examples. So if you have an import error, which is if you select Replace Existing Content and import can't find a match, then it will report it as an error, but you can download the MARC file. And then after you can review the report, of course, you get a report as well. But you'll just simply import this error file and select Keep Existing Content. Hopefully that made sense. Okay, I think it went, so let me get to my title space. And from here, now you've got the records that I just imported. Uh, oh, I brought this in earlier. Ignore that one. These are the 4 records that were in my file that imported successfully. And now I can do it by follow my normal cataloging practices, deciding which records to catalog first, to edit, review them, add items, whatever I need to do. One thing I want to point out while I'm in here, so it'll make more sense when I talk about the reclamation project, is in the MARC record, there's a couple pieces of data that identify it as an OCLC record. The first is the title control number. Hopefully you can see it's big enough, but it's the 001 field. It's got a prefix, and there's 3 different types. They all start with O. OCM as in monkey, OCN as in noise, and ON as in noise. Are the prefixes, and are assigned to a number, and that number happens to be what's known as the accession number. This OCLC accession number is also added in the MARC 035 field, 035, and it's usually in the subfield A, and you can see that they match. So when I get talking about reclamation project later, I'm going to be talking about this field, the 035, because this is something OCLC makes great use of in all their processing. They want to take this number out. These previous numbers are just indicating records that are no longer they're no longer valid. They've been merged. So the items or holdings that were on these records got moved to this record in the merging process to avoid duplication. Anyway, don't need to remember all that. I'm just kind of explaining all that. So now you just proceed as you're ready. When you're ready, you've edited your items, you've edited the title, then you publish the record and you're good to go. Right? So the holdings will show up in OCLC WorldCat. Now, you can also use LS2 cataloging to search WorldCat using Z3950. I'll just leave that off. You have to start in LS2 preferences. Rhiannon, is there any question on title add before I move on, using connection or world share? Anything about that?
Nope, no questions yet.
Okay. Okay, so you can search OCLC WorldCat via Z3950. That's a communication protocol. You start, for the first time you're configuring it, you start in LS2 preferences, which is where I am. You log in. System settings is the menu, search profiles, and Z3950. Come on. It's a lag time here. I keep forgetting that Zoom is sort of laggy. There is a profile already established for this database that I'm using, but before I get to that, I'll open it and show you what it looks like. I want to point out when you're coming in here for the first time, you want to select a default profile. We have one especially made for OCLC WorldCat, and you want to choose this one. It has the appropriate database connection information, so you don't need to know that. And it has all the attributes that Z3950 requires for searching. Not all libraries support all of these attributes. In other words, not all libraries support that you can search by a different report number or standard number, any of these standard numbers. OCLC supports 12 different standard numbers. OCLC supports 10 different title types and 8 contributor types. You don't need to worry about attributes unless you're interested in that kind of, it's older technology. It's from the 70s and 80s. So it's kind of a little archaic, if you want to think about it. But Z3950 is very successful for searching bibliographic databases, and that's why it's still in use today. Let me exit out of this one and just go into our edited one that we already have. So you can see that there is, OCLC requires an account number, which is basically a user ID and a password that they'll give you when you become a member. So you want to enter that information in. Now, if you want to automatically update OCLC when you save a downloaded title record, so you're using LS2 cataloging to search WorldCat, you find a record and download it, you edit it, add items. When you go to publish that title, you want to send that update automatically to OCLC to indicate that you own that title, you have a copy. So you'll need to configure this option here. You don't need to worry about this database name that's pre-populated, but you'll need to select a location to assign to the search profile. Now, if you are in a shared database, you have multiple locations. If you maybe only are the only library with an OCLC membership in that shared database, you want to select your particular branch library. If you are only have one OCLC membership for all the locations in your database, then you would select them all. This associates a location so with this account number. And so that way, when anyone at any of these locations publishes a title that they've downloaded from OCLC, it will automatically update OCLC holdings so that it associates the account ID with all of these locations. In other words, when you go into WorldCat looking for that title, all these locations will show up in that list of results. If you've only associated one or two, then that's all that shows up. So when you have multiple locations, each with a different OCLC account number, you want to make sure you include the location name in that tab, because that's an important part of when you get into LS2 cataloging to search. You have to be able to pick the right search profile to associate the right account. And TLC support can help you with all of this. Okay, now one last thing I want to mention before I leave here. When you first configure your profile, you have to usually test the connection. All this tests is that your account ID is accurate and the database information is accurate. It does not tell you that the search will be successful. You will not know that the search is successful until you get into LS2 cataloging. And I'm mentioning that because that's a question I get asked quite a bit from not just support, but TLC teams, internal staff ask me that question. And I get customers asking me that question, just as to remember that this is only testing that you connect to the server, which is important. That's the first step. But you won't know it searches until you actually get into LS2 cataloging. And that indicates that there is something wrong with the attributes. Just explaining. You know me, I like to explain everything. Oh wait, hang on, I gotta close this window. Now, the other thing, just in case you haven't used this before, you can move the order of these tabs. These are the tabs that show up in LS2 cataloging, those that are enabled. So you can enable it for display in LS2 cataloging, and you can rearrange this order. This library, this database I'm using doesn't have very many Z3950 sources, but you can have quite a number. All right, so we've set up our profile. Now I'm going to go back into LS2 cataloging and show you how that works. So I need to go to a title space. I'll go to a different one for this one. Let me bring up a search for something I haven't looked at before. Trying to copy my ISBN, in case you're wondering what I'm doing. And I'll search. Okay, I didn't find anything, which is normal, or didn't find anything locally, so it brought back nothing. So I want to get into my search screen, which is right here with all the local ITSMARC, and I have my Z3950 libraries here, and I'm going to search OCLC WorldCat. Obviously, if there are multiple locations with different accounts using OCLC, I'll pick the tab that has my library name on it. And I'm looking for a large print of this book, which is this one. If I'm not too sure, I could certainly use review title, just as typical, like you always do, have this option to review the title and decide which has the better subject matter. I'll go ahead and pick this first one. And it comes into my title space. Now at this point, OCLC does not know you have that title. It will not be updated via Z3950 to say that this account ID has this title until you publish the title. So the one thing I want to really stress is if you are a library with access, if you're a cataloger with access to multiple locations at your library, before you hit the publish button on this title, after you've edited and added items, make sure that that library that's displayed up here in the upper left matches one of the libraries that are associated with this WorldCat, which of course I just I closed and I hadn't associated with. So let's pretend I've chosen Wilderness Branch for my search profile. But over here, I have it showing main library. So at the time I publish this title, there will be Wilderness Branch will not be updated to show that they have a copy of this title. So OCLC will not know that Wilderness Branch has a copy of this title. I have to make sure that I select the branch I need, that matches the search profile that I need. So it sends the appropriate account ID for that location to OCLC. Hopefully that made sense. It's really important. Not every cataloger has access to multiple branches or locations. So if you only have access to one library, that's your account. You're good. Just get in the habit of double checking up there. Now, we downloaded this record from OCLC, and when we publish it, it will be saved to our database. But what about those titles that I might have gotten from another Z3950 library? What if I downloaded something from Itzmark, Seattle Public, when it's working? Seattle Public goes offline quite a bit. Kansas City Public. Or if I've created a new title or I've used a template, you have to report those title ads in a different way because they're not part of OCLC. OCLC won't know that you have those titles. So you need to report those using a different workflow. Hopefully that makes a little sense. So I'm going to move on to the next workflow. And one way to do that, as I understand it, I was told by a customer, OCLC member, who's also a LS customer, several years ago that there was an option inside Connection to upload a list of title control numbers and titles with your account ID, of course, so that way OCLC could update holdings. I don't know if that's still true, and I never saw or was told where that feature was. So for those of you who are using Connection or WorldShare Record Manager, check with OCLC customer service if you can't find the option somewhere in the platform to be able to upload a CSV, because I don't know if that actually is there or not. But I can certainly get my cursor back over here. Let me show you the report that will be helpful. So I'm in LS2 reports. I've had more trouble with this today. Don't know why. I have an old laptop. So there is a report that's available that helps you identify titles that are new. The other option, of course, is to use a MARC export, and I'll talk about that in a moment. I like to go into content. I don't think I've moved these into my favorites, so I'll go through it. You can see how I'm navigating. There are two reports that are available. One is called New or Edit Titles for Location that you may find useful if you're only going to report one location's new titles. And then there's System Titles. It always takes me a moment to find it. For some reason it moves around. There we go. System Deleted Titles. With System Deleted Titles, you select a date range. With that other report I mentioned, you select, let me show it to you before I proceed. New and edited titles. It takes a moment for it's under N. You can specify the location. So I could pick Wilderness Branch. I'll go ahead and run this one first just to show you if there are any. I don't think there will be, but we'll find out. So fast add, that's just different ways. If you do a lot of fast add records, you may want to select upgraded if you have an Itzmark subscription, but you definitely want to do none or upgraded if you felt like adding those fast adds that have been upgraded. Typically, you don't add these others because you might want to delete these fast add records later. So you could just use none. You don't care about a fast add status. It's just anything new. Now, OCLC doesn't need to know about an edited title if they already know about it. If you're not too sure, you want to select new and edited titles. And then you can select by a date range. So you'll need to keep track of whenever you report a title add or a title delete, you want to keep track of that date so you'll know. And the next time you go to download the report or grab an export of records, you want to choose the ones that have been added or deleted after that last date that you updated. I hope I said that right. Let me pick a short date to get a quick report back. I forgot to click this. Let's do title. And you can export this out. So I'll go ahead. I usually use that CSV. It's a little faster to export. Let me open the title, open the Excel sheet. And then I just had to open up the columns to show. Now this is, if you are planning to upload anything to OCLC, whether it's a CSV or a MARC extract file, you need to call or talk to OCLC customer support first. They need to know what you're planning to do, and they can help you. They'll tell you exactly the formats that they will accept. There could be a way to upload a CSV to OCLC and have them process it. which case you might want to give them the title control number and of course title and author so they have a verifying point. Um, and let me move this column over. Kind of CSV kind of gets a little junky looking. You have to kind of play around with the column headings and that sort of thing. But you can see there are, let's see how many there are. Now that I have an title, there are 7,000 in this library that's apparently new or edited. Some of them, if they're edited, they may already have been reported. Let me find an OCLC number. Some of these are other vendors, so let's get to, I should sort this. Hang on, let me sort this real fast. I have a report I've already run, but it's, come on. My cursor is just not cooperating. This always happens when I'm doing a webinar. I'm trying to look for OCLC numbers just to show you. OCP. OCN, here's one. Now, if it's a small number of records, like 100 or so, that's a little more feasible to do what I'm showing you, because you can use this in LS2 cataloging. We don't yet have an option for you to upload a CSV of title control numbers. Oh, sorry, I keep forgetting, click on the wrong advanced. Let me get that URL before I lose my train of thought. Hang on. Now I've promised Rhiannon I would post this and now I can't find it. So hang on 1 second. There we go. There is an idea in LS Ideas, and I'm going to post this in chat for you to add a vote if you wish. Vote or a comment to support in development of this option. The product manager teams have talked about adding an option in LS2 cataloging where you can, I don't know if it'd be an advanced search or it might be in a title space where you would, forgot. I practiced this, I swear I practiced this yesterday and, fortunately you all know that I'm scatterbrained at times. Because it's you obviously don't want to do something that's 4,000 records. That would be very laborious to copy and paste a title control number into advanced search. I mean, you can go pretty fast. Click on add to title space, and the last title space you were in was automatically populating this field. So then you just click add, go back to advanced search, paste the next one, and go back and forth. If it's just a few, it's not so cumbersome. For a huge amount, we would like that option that's not yet developed in LS2 cataloging for us to be able to upload that CSV of title control numbers and have a process pull out those records and put them in a title space, in which case then we can do some batch export. Be great, wouldn't it? So please vote or add your comment to that idea that I posted. So if that is a cumbersome, as we saw, this is a lot of records. New titles would be probably bigger. This is just one location's new titles. It could be that there'll be additional ones in the other report. So you might have, this is one advantage to reporting like once a month of your title ads, because it would be a smaller list. But still, when it gets over 100, you might want to use a mark export. So you could still do the same option using LS2 cataloging by getting these titles into a title space. I'll go back to the other title space since there's more records here. And then you can export those out using batch actions and export. I won't actually carry through with it, but unless anyone has a question, they've never exported before, I can show you that step, what you do after you export, how you get that file. Let me know in chat if you want me to show that. But basically you would do the same process. Advanced search by control number, bring them into a title space, then you go into the title space and batch select them, and then you select export. And they come into a marked file, which then you would upload to OCLC. They have an SFTP server that you would be posting it to. You need to talk to OCLC customer support before you upload anything. They'll tell you exactly what they need from you in terms of the file name and where their SFTP server is located and all the steps involved in that. So you need to get like approval, pre-clearance before you start doing that. So that is one option, is to build, if it's a small number of titles that you've found that are new, you can bring them into a title space, export the file, and send it off to OCLC. The other option is to talk to TLC support because there is a database job, we call it Mark Extract, that they will schedule, they'll configure it for you and schedule it to run on a regular basis if you wish, or it could be a one-time situation. And they'll pull out they'll create a export record. They'll extract all of your records that you want to have that are new to your database. And then they will, I'm not sure, I think Cody might be in the session. Maybe she'll say in chat. Support will tell you where that file is located. I'm not sure if they have it somewhere for you to retrieve or they'll maybe do it for you. I'm assuming they're going to give you that file somehow and you will upload that. You'll download it and then perhaps upload it into the OCLC SFTP server. I have a hard time saying that word. So then then OCLC will process that file and show that, put your holding, your account ID with those titles to show that you have a copy of that available. So you've updated OCLC with that method. You could schedule that report, as I mentioned, that TLC support will help you by creating a configuration for it and scheduling it to run maybe once a month, once a quarter, and then you would have that file generated automatically that you could then send off to OCLC. And that would be including, see, that's the way you report all those titles that weren't downloaded from OCLC or imported from OCLC, the title records you obtain from other sources. Does any of that make sense? I hope. Okay, we're doing well on time. Title deletes is the next thing. I'll be done a little early, so there'll be time for questions and any information that people might want to share. You also have the responsibility to report title deletes. So that's a similar mechanism, not quite as many options. I'm not sure if Connection or WorldShare Record Manager has an option to report. I mean, obviously you would be deleting a title, I'm assuming, out of, you would find that title and manually remove it from, I guess, take away your holding. I'm not sure how that works in Connection. I'm used to Cat Express, where there was a way to remove that update holding. It was just a button you pushed, and that would take your holding off that title record. So you essentially deleted it out of your database, the holding side of that OCLC uses. There must be a way in Connection and WorldShare Record Manager to indicate that you no longer own that title. So those would help with all of the titles that you've downloaded or imported. Let me rephrase that. Those would help with all the titles that well, I think those would even work if you've downloaded it via LS2 cataloging Z3950 because OCLC would know that you had that holding. So you could manually delete titles out of Connection or WorldShare Record Manager. So that would be one way to do it. Or you can generate a report and get that list of titles. Let me show you how to do that in the report. Back to our LS2 reports. Content, I'll go back to the same place. The last place, it remembers the last screen you were on, which is pretty handy when you're doing lots of different reports. We have a system deleted titles. I don't see a deleted by location title. Generally, you're deleting a title for multiple reasons, but sometimes they don't have items. So that's why it's just the one report. And it's a date range. So again, you can, I don't know if I'll get anything much for this. I'll go ahead and run it. So there aren't too many here. If it's a short report like this would be something easy to, perhaps if you have access to Connection or WorldShare Record Manager, you could simply copy these control numbers into and search for them or search by title. You could search for them in Connection and Record Manager and delete them that way. You can also build a title, use advanced search to find these titles. Wait, duh. You can tell it's Friday. No, we can't get to the deleted titles through advanced search. I keep forgetting that. There is no criteria to search for deleted titles. because they're no longer part of the active database. They're in a separate database table, so there is a report available, but you can't, as we saw, but you can't actually retrieve them using advanced search. So this would be another option where you might want to have TLC either manually do it. There aren't that many here. It would just take maybe 10 minutes to, I don't know, 15 minutes maybe to go into connection or world share and delete them manually for this view. But you can also talk to TLC support about scheduling a mark export of your deleted titles. The mark extract is looking for either active titles or new or edited titles, or it's looking for deleted titles. It's one or the other. You can't have both at the same file, so you'll get two separate files in that case. And again, this can be scheduled on a regular basis like you do with your regular new titles. It could be once a month, they'll do a new titles and a deleted titles, get you a file of mark extract file there for you, and you can send them off to OCLC. After you've notified OCLC customer support that you plan to send them an upload of mark records for deleted, because they'll tell you exactly what they want. Now, there may be a way to also send a CSV through Connection or WorldShare Record Manager, but I just don't know, could not find any information about that option. If there's a way to send new titles, I would assume you could also do deleted that they could process. Gosh, I'm moving along nice and quickly. Unlike me, right? In spite of all my technical or memory issues this morning. I think that's all I had to say about title deletes. So the very last thing I want to talk about is the reclamation project. So this is what OCLC calls it. This would be when it's when you are working in a library that maybe hasn't reported on a regular basis the title adds or title deletes. You know, staff change. Sometimes it just doesn't get done for maybe a year or more. You probably want to start fresh and use what OCLC refers to as a reclamation project. Now, if you are using WorldShare Record Manager, I understand they have a data sync process that perhaps there's a mechanism in there that you can then upload that CSV of deletes and adds or some manual way of doing that. It's free. The data sync is part of the software. But a reclamation project, according to the OCLC website I looked at yesterday, there is a fee. I don't know how much that is. That webpage did not indicate the cost. So you want to check always, especially with a reclamation project, you have to talk to OCLC customer support. It's a lot of work for them. What they basically do is remove all the holdings associated with your account ID, and then they wait, or they do this right before they start their processing. You have to send them a mark extract of your entire bibliographic database, all your title records. You send that mark extract off to them. I've been through a couple of them now when I previously worked at a library that was an OCLC member. OCLC gives you exactly what you need in terms of file name and how to upload those files and the steps involved. They give you all the information you need to be able to upload them to their SFTP server. And then they will process them, and they essentially, by wiping out all the holdings you had associated with your account previously, then they just, based on the mark records you're sending, they process those and add those titles and indicate you have those are your holdings. So they basically replace the holdings in WorldCat as part of this processing. And at the end of that reclamation project, OCLC will return to you mark extract files of all the records that you previously sent them. They will return those files, and those files will contain, if it's not already there, a mark 035 field that contains the OCLC accession number. And let me show you, I showed you briefly what that looked like. And essentially that is the accession number that OCLC uses for the majority of its processing because it's stable. Title control numbers can get changed very easily. So the 035 is what they use to save that data. And we have a process in library.solution to allow you or to help you replace, not replace or insert is a better word. What you're going to do is import those files that OCLC returns to you after the reclamation project and have import process them in LS2 cataloging Let me go ahead and get you over there to import. And I want to select this override, sort of we call it like a separate override option. Only insert OCLC control numbers. It only has one match point, a title control number. Remember, these are the same records that you just exported to them in the previous month or two. Sometimes it takes a couple months for the reclamation to get completed. And then they're getting them returned to you. They're the same records. They just now have a mark 035 in them. So let me choose my file. And I'm going to find an example there. And there's no other settings. I don't have to worry about anything else because it only matches on title control number. And I'll start the import. There's only a few files. So the process will check, takes the import title, looks for the 035, mark 035 field that's in that record that OCLC added if it wasn't already there. And it will then check and see if that field exists with the same number, same data in the matching title record. And if it's there, it doesn't take any action, it moves on to the next record. If it's not there, it adds it. So if the title control number is something else, you will have an 035 now that has the OCLC number that OCLC needs. Okay, let me see if there are any errors. I forgot to look. Got a couple errors, partially imported. And of course, oh, that's the file. Let's get the report. Yeah, it usually is typical. Now, in the time between when you first sent off your mark extract for the reclamation project and OCLC sending back that file, you may have deleted the title for some reason. It's not there. So this is where you see this error, finding best match. That gives you an opportunity to review it. I'm not sure what this means. So I'll have to, that's something that I'd have to investigate. So we just won't talk about that for now. You can investigate. You've got the mark file here, so you could investigate it. And if it was an accidental deletion, you could always import it and add it if you needed to do that. And of course, I forgot to open up the file. I'm normally a little bit better prepared than I seem to be today. So let me look at some of these records. Let's grab one here. Hang on, I got to find the record that didn't have an 035 to begin with. Here's one. Let's take this. Well, let's take the control number. That's a little more accurate. I did include a couple of different scenarios in that file, so that's how I take this control number. They get published. That's why I didn't have a title space, right? So in this is only this particular feature, only insert OCLC control number, publishes a title automatically, which is why it wasn't there. So let me look at the mark view. And somewhere I should see an 035. Somewhere. And I should have checked to make sure this would actually happen. Because, great, this example did not happen. I think we found a new bug. That is not the one that was reported, was it? Another embarrassing moment in my webinar where the 035 wasn't added like it normally is. So I'll have to investigate that. Let me look and see if there's another one. It's supposed to. This is what I imported. Oh, wait. Duh. Gosh. There's no 035, which means nothing happened. Hang on. Let me look at this one. Death by Black Hole. I love that book. He's got such an interesting way of talking, writing. Oh boy. You're going to get the wrong impression of me. I'm normally not quite so scatterbrained. Oh, wonderful. And that's not looking for anything either. Okay. Well, I will eventually find one that has this OCLC on it. I promise this works. I tested it a couple of months ago for a development project, and it was working. So let's see if this one will be there. I am looking at the right file, right? Yeah. I tested this yesterday, as a matter of fact. I promise. I did test this.
Kim, I
I'm
think
just,
you're grabbing the ISBN and then putting in the control
oh,
number field. I think that's why.
thank you. I need a keeper this morning, apparently.
No,
You're
you're
right.
totally fine.
Oh boy. Rhiannon's gonna, yeah, this is hard to break up into two separate presentations, but Rhiannon will be helping me with the authority one, the next one. She'll be part of all of the coming. Yeah, here we go. Finally. Oh well, I wasted 5 minutes of your time. I apologize. Maybe it's been 10 minutes of your time. At any rate, I did check these records previously had no 035 because I removed them out of the record, and now it has one. And you'll notice that there's a string here. So this is the current record. Hopefully you can see this. This is the current OCLC accession number. And as I mentioned before, in the 035, it has a different prefix than what you see up here. Well, of course, this one doesn't have an OCLC control number, so we're good there. When you see this long string, again, this just means that these were records that were previously available and had holdings, but holdings were all moved off them to this one record that we've got here. So this is the current valid record for all these holdings. Now, if this number already existed, it wouldn't have added a duplicate 035. So it doesn't give you extra fields, although there's no harm in having a duplicate, but it doesn't add that. But it is an exact match. So it's looking for this specific prefix and this specific number, that specific data that's in this subfield A is what it's looking for. Okay, thank you. Totally lost track of what I was doing there. So I'm glad Rhiannon was paying attention since I was missing it completely, that I was putting a standard number in a control number field. Oh well. Okay, so I think that's about all I can show you in relation to this, now that I've totally confused you, I'm sure. Has anyone dropped off because they're so frustrated? Ready to disappear. So now there's time for, oh, before we get started, I want to just point out the next, before we get started answering questions, if there are any or have discussions, I just want to mention the next webinar. Now that TLCU is over, we're back to our webinar schedule of twice a month, twice every other Friday. The next webinar is scheduled for December 13th, correcting corporate name authority headings. So it's the last of our authority record, authority heading workflows to correct them, move them to better authority records and that sort of thing. So look for that in December. And we have two webinars scheduled for January. Rhiannon and I will be meeting over the next couple of weeks to figure out our schedule for next year. We may or may not use a survey to get your feedback on what you'd like to hear. We have some ideas on the different approach we might make. So feel free to let us know right now in chat if you have ideas on what you'd like to see, or you can always email us at some point. Trying to get my cursor back. Alrighty, any questions that we need to talk about?
Yeah, Kim, we've got a couple of questions here.
Okay.
The first question is from Valerie, and they asked, is there a way to hide C3950 profiles per user or per location?
No, excuse me, not yet, but I believe there is at least one idea. I've heard from customers who have asked about that. Yes, because especially when you're in a multiple location site, you may not want to see all 35 C3950 tabs in your, let me just do a match again. It'll take me a few minutes to get into LS Ideas, but there might be an idea that's already available in LS Ideas for that purpose. But if not, please submit that idea because that would be helpful. We've talked about it briefly, but we haven't had anyone asking for that too often as yet, just a couple people, as I remember, and I don't know if there's an idea for it yet. It'd help to have more people letting us know that that's important because we would modify the search profile, I would guess. I'm not sure how that'll be done. We haven't gotten that far to talk the details on how to actually implement that. I don't know if it'd be over here where you would specify the display. Not sure where it would be, but that is something that people have asked about. A couple people in the last few months have asked about that. So that would be good.
Yeah, so if you have access to LS Ideas, recommend taking a look there, and if that's something that you would like to see in the future, to add your vote to that LS idea. And if you don't have access to LS ideas, definitely reach out to support
Yeah.
or to your system administrator to get access to that.
I mean, I can jump into LS ideas and look for an idea, but it'll take me a few minutes to get in there. So
Yeah,
I hate to waste the
I,
time.
I'll see if I can find it before the end of this, but we'll go on to our next question. The next question from Sydney was, does the send updates to OCLC also remove holdings from OCLC control numbers that were deleted from our system? I
Not
think that was
yet.
asked a little
Yeah.
bit earlier in the session before we got to the deletes
Yeah.
portion, but
Yeah, not yet, but it's good to repeat that because that is something I know I've got a task waiting on the development board to do that, to modify the search profile so that you can, when you update new titles, you can also update deleted titles if you're deleting them through LS2 cataloging. It'll still, if it's got, now I don't know if I mentioned this, let me stress that again. The update that occurs when you send updates to OCLC via Z3950, let me go back to a title space, would only occur if you're when you publish a title and it has that OCLC prefix in the title control number. That's true in Forex as well. So that's another way. Sometimes you have to report those title ads differently because you've got records from other sources. Does that make any sense? So even though you might have configured preferences to send updates to OCLC, it's only triggered after I've chosen a location. It's only triggered when I publish that record over here in the wilderness branch. Let me publish this one, for example. When I go to publish it, that update is only sent at that moment. And because it's got an OCLC prefix, if it had a prefix other than OCLC, which is OCM prefix, OCN, and ON, nothing happens. They don't know that you have that record. So I might have missed or didn't say that with enough emphasis to mention that. But yes, delete, we just haven't, it's not ready to do that yet.
yeah. And we have one final question here. Is there a report that can show you items that are attached to an OCLC record but are no longer in our pack? And I was poking around in LS2
Hmm.
reports. I know that you can do um, there is a
Item.
report for titles with a field. So you could always search for titles with an 035 field.
Mm-hmm. That's one of.
And if you have authoring licenses, you can definitely also alter that to filter by holdings code as well. If you have a particular holdings code that doesn't display in pack, then you can filter to that. But as of what I'm seeing in LS2 reports, I don't see any particular report that does exactly that, but you can go through that titles with system titles with field number and
Yeah.
then choose the 035.
Um, You might also try, and I've never tried this. I wonder if you could, well, you have to flip a field number. So you could put 001, and that would generate a big report, right? 035 would also work. Just another alternative is the 001 too.
Yeah,
Either one I think would work. Because, well, using the title control number wouldn't be as accurate as an 035, assuming you've reported that title to OCLC and they've updated with it. You know for sure that any title you downloaded or imported from OCLC will have that 035. Um, but I was thinking of the 001 title control number because that's easy to sort by the number, and then you can see all those that have that OCLC prefix. But there's no,
yeah,
like Rhiannon mentioned, there's no items associated with that. Now you could do items in a holdings code. You could go holdings code by holdings code. I don't know how that might be somewhat laborious, but um, you might know the holdings codes well, really well. There's items in a holdings code, and I think it has title control number. So, but that would not show you titles with, yeah, I don't think there's one report that can give you that. You might have to come at it a different way, a
Yeah.
couple different
And
ways.
Valerie asked another similar question. Is there a way to search for system titles with a specific subfield, not just a field number? And that's not one of the available
Right. These,
reports here. So,
you can get an authoring license and generate your own reports if you wish. Um, I have no idea the pricing on authority is a separate license, authoring license. You'd have to contact your sales rep or TLC support will, or your email. Um, I think it's Valencia Godlove is your sales representative for most everybody. She would give you a pricing author for an author license, and you can generate your own reports, however, whatever combination of data points you want to use. You can also ask for a custom report, but there is a charge. Uh, if it's a, I think they might have slightly different pricing if it's one, uh, if it's a report that they have made for other people or it's similar to an existing report, it won't take much time to modify it slightly. There might be a lesser charge than, I think it's $50 for a whole new report, but it might be worth it over time for you to use. You can always ask that through submitting a case ticket or contacting TLC support, and they'll put in a report request. Sometimes you have to use
and we've,
multiple reports and kind of take pieces of data from
yeah.
different reports and put them in a whole new spreadsheet so you can get what you need.
And we've got one more question here. And Sydney asked, what if the OCLC record is added via OSA? And does the send updates to OCLC also update as well?
Not until you publish that title, I think. If you have configured your search profile to, so you're in LS2 cataloging, and let me step back, take another step back. So there is not a direct connection between OSA having an OCLC record. Are you downloading it from OCLC or does it just happen to be an OCLC record? I don't think OSA talks to OCLC to let them know that you've updated that holding. That's something to ask TLC support. I'm just not too sure. OSA is sort of a black box for most of us product managers. We know a little bit on how to use it, but there's a lot. We'd have to talk to the developer to see exactly what it's doing. It's one of the oldest applications that we have, and we don't have anyone around that's really familiar with how it works. But as far as I
Yes.
know, there's no direct connection or communication between OSA and OCLC. But if you have a record that's brought in from OSA that is, and you have a search profile configured for searching OCLC WorldCat and you've enabled OCLC update holdings, then when you publish that title and it's got that OCLC prefix and the title control number, it should automatically send that holding off to OCLC. If you've already gotten it updated with OCLC, it doesn't hurt it to send it a second or third time. There's no problem there. They just, they just deal with it. They just put it again. Doesn't doesn't give you two copies or whatever. It just doesn't do any harm. Did that help? I'm not sure I explained that very well.
Yeah, yeah. Sydney
Yeah,
clarified that when you're using OSA to pick the OCLC record when you're searching in there, and then it publishes it to the system so that it shows up in PAC. Um,
right. It's not.
I'm not
It,
sure if
I'm not
that
sure.
OCLC update happens when OSA is the one sending the
Right.
record for it to be published.
I'd be very
That is something we
surprised.
will
I'd be
look
very
into.
surprised if it did that. So I would say that you should probably check. I would bring up one of those titles in LS2 cataloging and um, publish it again just to make sure that it actually updates OCLC. Or you could just wait and do a title ad report or, process to report your title ads and include it. Yeah, that's something I hadn't thought about. I'm making myself a note that I can try to see if anyone that knows the most about OSA can answer that question because I just don't know um, what happens
Well,
there.
that's all of our questions so far in the Q&A and in the chat.
Does anyone have any suggestions on topics you want to hear us cover? Yeah. Dana says she's pretty sure that doesn't work. There is no connection between OSA. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Everyone who said, Kim, wake up, you're using the wrong advanced search field. Let's see, I'm checking. Steve Mackey's here. Oh, this is Rhiannon's answer. Thank you. Good thing Rhiannon's here to keep me straight, keep you all informed. All right, well, eventually we do intend to continue with our Cataloging Friday webinars in 2025. We just don't have a schedule yet, so keep your eye out. We'll post something about it.
Yeah, and thank you for the suggestion, Valerie. That's a great one for talking a bit
Yeah,
more about serials and some of the workflows with that, because it is
yeah.
a bit different, especially if you've recently upgraded to 5X. So definitely some new workflows and yeah, with serial items versus non-serial items. Yeah, for sure. That's a great idea.
And we do value feedback, so to know what we should fix or add or change or something with serials. So that would be helpful to talk about that. Um, we have, many ideas on what we might want to talk about, but it seems like focusing on cataloging workflows would be very helpful for next year. But let us know. All right, I guess we're done. I'll stop sharing my
Perfect.
screen. Thank you all for everyone. I
Okay.
do apologize for my weird, my not very polished discussion today, kind of off track today. Uh, yeah, glad you all came, and the recording will be available within the next couple hours on LS Community, like always. So thanks again.
Thanks
See
everyone
you
for
on the
coming.
13th. Alrighty, bye.